All right, mistakes the church makes. Can't wait to do this one. So it's going to be more of three things I think the church teaches wrong. And if your church doesn't teach these things wrong, then this isn't for your church, but for the churches who do teach these things wrong. Now, I guess you could call this more of a personal thing. Number one is baptisms. I don't really like how some churches just call it a symbol. I just don't like that wording. So much more than that. It's an act of obedience. You know, we were commanded to be baptized. We were commanded to go make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them, you know. So baptism is so much more than just a symbol. It's an act of obedience. It's an act of, all right, I have surrendered my life to Jesus. Now, because I've surrendered my life to him, I'm going to obey his commandments, right? Because there's no point in saying, oh, I believe in him if I'm not going to follow him. He commanded us to do that, so we should be doing that. It's an act of obedience. So I think we should just put more emphasis on how important it is to be baptized. Number two is teaching on singleness. This isn't every church, but of course, you got churches where they're saying, oh, you know, you may be called to be single forever. And it's like Psalm 37:4 is clear that if you delight in the Lord, he'll give you the desires of your heart. Marriage is a God-given desire. It is not good for man to be alone. If you truly follow him, he will give you a wife or a husband, but on his timing. You may be single for a certain time, but he's not going to call you to be single forever if you have this desire in your heart. And it's always people in relationships that say, oh, you may be called to be single forever. I'm not, but you might be. So it's just like, let's be real here, man. If they're truly following God with all their heart, he's not going to call them to be single forever. It just doesn't align with scripture. And then final one, number three, is churches need to talk about the end times more. You know, I believe the end times are coming. I believe hard times are coming for Christians. The tribulation is coming, but churches don't want to talk about it because they think that we're going to be raptured out of here, which the rapture isn't biblical. You can look it up. Some dude named Darby, I think was his name or whatever, but he came up with the concept of the pre-tribulation rapture. That's not going to happen. Matthew 24 is clear that the believers are going to go through a great tribulation, but as long as you lean on Christ and you endure, just like Christians have been enduring since the time of Jesus, you will be saved and you will make it until the end. And if you don't, you'll be with the Father. So it's just like, we should talk about the end times more, prepare believers more for the hard times that are coming. And when they teach about Daniel, instead of only teaching about the lion's den, maybe teach about the end time prophecy that's in there. All the Old Testament prophets, you know, maybe show their end time prophecy as well.